Calaroga Shark Media.
Hey there, I'm Johnny Mac with your Daily Comedy News. Are we really going to do this, Daily Beast? Their headline: the addition of MAGA comedian Tony Hinchcliffe's protégé is likely to disrupt the show's SNL's status quo and already recalls the Shane Gillis debacle. So we're calling Kam Patterson MAGA comedian Tony Hinchcliffe's protégé. Okay, noted. We'll get to SNL in a bit. Want to talk more about the not-so-canceled Aziz Ansari. Aziz, out there on the apology tour promoting a new movie, has broken his silence on the controversy surrounding Bill Murray. You may recall back in 2022, there was an alleged incident on the set of the Aziz Ansari movie Being Mortal. A report published at the time claimed that Bill Murray straddled a woman on a prop bed and kissed her on the mouth through masks worn on set for COVID safety protocols. In an interview with the New York Times, Bill Murray had said he felt barbecued by the experience, despite saying he had tried to make peace with the affected parties. Murray said, "I don't go too many days or weeks without thinking what happened. I don't know what prompted me to do it. It's something I had done to someone else before, and I thought it was funny, and every time it happened, it was funny. I was wearing a mask. I gave her a kiss. She was wearing a mask. It wasn't like I touched her, and she wasn't a stranger." Murray added that he ate lunch with the person on various days of the week. Aziz Ansari, promoting his movie, has chimed in saying, "Bill couldn't believe it happened. I think this movie meant a lot to him." You know what people are starting to notice? The Riyadh Comedy Festival. I'm hearing some conversations about this in other podcasts, and some people in the media are noticing that some comedians are playing the Riyadh Comedy Festival. The confirmed lineup includes, write this down, this is a lot of big names. You've heard of these people who are going to play the Riyadh Comedy Festival. They include Andrew Santino, Andrew Schultz, the not-so-canceled Aziz Ansari, Bill Burr, Bobby Lee, Jessica Kirson, Jim Jeffries, Jimmy Carr, Joe Coy, Kevin Hart, Pete Davidson, remember that name for a second, Russell Peters, Sebastian Maniscalco, Tom Segura, Whitney Cummings, Zarna Garg. Now, some critics of these comedians find it interesting that they're playing Saudi Arabia, for example, say Jessica Kirson, who's gay, or Pete Davidson, whose father was killed on 9/11. Tim Heidecker joked Bill Cosby and Woody Allen will also make rare public appearances at the Riyadh Comedy Festival. The festival is September 26th through October 9th. Humorism.xyz has an article called "Here's How Comedians Are Rationalizing Taking a Paycheck from Saudi Arabia." Jim Jeffries spoke to Theo Vaughn about it. Jim said, "Now people have been going, how dare you go after they killed a reporter? That was the big one. There's been a reporter who they killed. You don't think our government bleeping bumped people? I think Jeffrey Epstein was effing bumped off. You know what I mean?" Theo Vaughn said, "I'm sure that every place, we've damaged a lot of places. Jeffries, one reporter was killed by the government. Unfortunate, but not a hill that I'm going to die on. And I don't know the ins and outs of their government. So they got into live golf, right? All the golfers go to Saudi Arabia for king's ransom amount of money. And everyone's like, how dare they after how they treat their people and all this stuff. And then people are like, all right. Then we've got Cristiano Ronaldo, soccer player, who goes over and plays there and is being paid an extra 100, 200 grand every time he kicks a goal as a bonus, 50 grand for an assist. Tim Dillon, who's gay, said, if my tax dollars in the country that I go to are being sent to another country to starve children, for anyone to then say you should refuse a gig in Saudi Arabia on moral ground is bleeping insane. It's insane. Chris DiStefano, talking to Stavros Halkias, said, I didn't want to do it either. I was contemplating. I was like, maybe not. And then Jasmine was like, well, we're getting married. We got the house. Who knows? We'll probably sell it again. I was like, I can't do it. And then she was like, you're going to take that bleeping money. Short Ole now reporting on this. Their headline, comics take the Saudi coin. Oma Jalili, who's playing the festival, tweeted, I'm at the Riyadh Comedy Festival in Saudi Arabia October 1st, naturally a little nervous as the Saudis remove any image with nudity in your possession before coming to the country. Word is Louis C.K. is at the airport right now having his retinas removed. Tim Dillon again on his podcast. Here's the point, okay? I'm doing this because they're paying me a large sum of money. Do I have issue with some of their politics towards women, towards the gays, towards the freedom of speech? Well, of course I do, but I believe in my own financial well-being. And always have, by the way, and I think you better start believing in that. Plenty to talk about here. We'll continue to talk about it. Going to be a lot of Nate Bargatze this week. He's hosting the Emmys on Sunday. I've seen at least 3 major pieces about him. Let's start with the one in the Telegraph. They write, nobody has a bad word to say about Nate. This is by design. The comedian has become one of the hottest properties in stand-up by studiously avoiding the divisive, rage-inducing topics that most other contemporary comedians find themselves drawn toward, like moths to a trans joke. I see what you did there, Telegraph. He avoids profanity as carefully as he avoids controversy, carefully expelling even the hint of vulgarity from his family-friendly sets. When it was first announced he'd host SNL, the news was greeting with more than a few raised eyebrows. In fact, it's unlikely he would have even landed the gig if it hadn't been for the then ongoing actor strike. When he took the stage, He opened his monologue by saying, "Look, I'm as shocked as you are that I'm here." At that time, Bargatze was considered a mid-tier stand-up comedian. So boy, he's really popped, huh? His plan for the Emmys, he told Stephen Colbert back in June, "I guess I'll just do what I do. I'm very self-deprecating. I'll try to bring it inward. I know it's a tough thing when everybody's up for all these awards, but I want everyone to have a good time. I'll try to make it lively and fun, and I'll make fun of me." There were some creative Emmys over the weekend. Congratulations to Bryan Cranston, who won Outstanding Guest Star Actor in a Comedy Series for his work in the studio. Let's talk a little SNL. There was a kerfluffle. Is Colin Jost leaving? Is he staying? On Friday night, Colin Jost was on the stage. He did some Q&A. Someone asked if he was returning. Jost said, "I don't know, probably." That started some speculation over the weekend. Then wife Scarlett Johansson said, nope, he's coming back to work. And now Deadline is reporting that the cast exodus is over. Deadline reporting the cast will be 18 people, which is a lot. They are Michael Che, Mikey Day, Andrew Dismukes, Chloe Fineman, Marcelo Hernandez, who does one thing really well, end of sentence, James Austin Johnson, Colin Jost, Egon Woodham, Sarah Sherman, Kenan Thompson, who knows a good gig when you have one, and Bowen Yang. Featured players Ashley Padilla, Jane Wickline, and Ben Marshall, Tommy Brennan, Jeremy Colhane, Kam Patterson, who, what are we calling him again? MAGA comedian Tony Hinchcliffe's protégé, Kam Patterson, and Veronica Slowakowska. They rounds out your cast. In case you're worried about the Please Don't Destroys, the Please Don't Destroys said, nope, we are still together. A fan video clip making the rounds on social media showed the Please Don't Destroys making fun over the cast shakeup at SNL. Ben Marshall asked, anything going on this week? John Higgins said, anything in the news? Higgins said, it's PDD forever, baby. Deadline believes the troupe will remain together, but focus its efforts on developing other projects and will no longer make videos for Saturday Night Live. Joe Rogan took a shot at Marc Maron because Marc Maron's been taking a shot at Joe Rogan on the Joe Rogan Experience. Joe asked Tim Heidecker, have you ever known people that have outdoor cats and they're very irrational, Marc Maron? That's not me adding the Maron tag there. That was Joe. Those people probably have toxo, which is why they're behaving weird. Did you watch football all weekend like I did? Boy, my picks, I couldn't have done worse. The only thing, actually, I could have done worse. Friend of the show, Scott, invited me to the football pool. I'm in 56th place out of 59. You want to know who's in 59th? Yeah, Scott. So I was going to say I could have done worse, but apparently I could have done slightly worse. At least I'm ahead of him. Boy, if he finished like third and I was in 56th, that would have been embarrassing. The only thing I got right was hating on the Jets. Kevin Hart went to see Tennessee football. He was shown on the scoreboard as the Volunteers warmed up pregame. Why, you're wondering? Well, Hendrix Hart is a senior in high school. He's a short sprinter. His event is the 200-meter dash, and he is being recruited by Tennessee. One more football story, then we'll take the break. The first story after the break is horrible, horrible, horrible. If you were listening with children to this podcast for some reason, please hit stop on the podcast, okay? Because you don't want to go there. Hit stop. Anyway, one more fun story. Did you watch the Chargers and the Chiefs? You know, Taylor Swift's boyfriend Travis there, he got slapped in the face by one of the defenders on the Chargers. Seemed the Chiefs scored a touchdown. Part of that play was Travis making a block on Chargers Tier Tart. The Chargers tackle seemed to take exception with how hard Travis was pushing him. He stared at Kelce before striking him across the helmet with an open palm. The Swifties were not happy with this. One of them said, you should have got ejected and suspended. Another said, you've officially made children who previously looked up to you hate you. How pathetic that you can't control your anger. How did Mr. Tart respond to this? He went on social media and posted a Dave Chappelle skit in which Chappelle is dressed as Rick James and slaps Charlie Murphy. In the sketch, Chappelle's Rick James asked Charlie Murphy, what did the five fingers say to the face? And then he smacks him. Okay, again, warning, hit stop if you're with kids. This is terrible. Many news reports saying comedian John Reep was arrested and charged with sexual exploitation of a minor. Reep apparently was indicted on 10 counts of sexual exploitation. The Hickory, North Carolina Police Department had opened an investigation into Reep in April. After reviewing the HBD's case, a grand jury indicted Reep on Tuesday. Howard Stern returned to the satellite airwaves on Monday, and boy, Howard, 1985 Howard would hate you. The show started with Andy Cohen behind the microphone and said the channel going forward would be known as Andy 100. Andy Cohen said, I know you're expecting a big announcement from Howard, and this is not how things are meant to go. This was supposed to be a cleaner handoff. I'm kind of winging it. He said it was a surreal morning here, and I can't possibly fill his void. And he was confident Howard Stern would land on another platform soon. Well, what do you know? That was a prank. Howard Stern showed up and thanked Andy Cohen for agreeing to do the stunt. Howard, that's so lame, like unbelievably lame. Ugh. Well, Howard then addressed all the rumors and said he'd been thinking of retiring, but said he couldn't walk away now, given reports that the show was canceled. One of the positive things about the fake news, according to Stern, is that he heard from other companies were interested in picking up his show. Stern said, I'm very happy at Sirius. Here's the truth. SiriusXM and my team have been talking about how we go forward in the future. They've approached me. They've sat down with me like they normally do, and they're fantastic. Johnny Mac continues to tell you this is going to get dragged out until the Thursday before Christmas vacation, at which point they will announce Howard Stern is coming back for a 2-year Victory Lap farewell tour. Write it down. Greg Daniels talked about The Paper with the LA Times. I haven't seen it yet. Now, here's the issue. My wife has decided that's a show we're going to work together. You know what that means? That means for like months and months, I'm like, hey, do you want to watch The Paper? And she's not going to be free. And on the nights where she is free, I'm going to be watching football. Many months from now, we'll watch The Paper, and she's going to watch it for about 7 minutes and be like, yeah, I don't like this. You can watch by yourself. Why I can't just watch by myself tonight? I don't know. Are you married? I am. Anyway, Greg Daniels said, I've always felt like the show was cut to be the introduction to the show itself, and then he explains that the jokes are being set up for later seasons. He said, at first, I thought the pace-out model would be good for that, because that's how The Office was on NBC, but NBC pointed out to me that the majority of Office fans watched on streaming where they could binge the whole thing. That's why they're binging it, okay? Haven't seen it yet. Greg Daniels, why Toledo? Greg said that was really about the alliteration of the Toledo Truth Teller. There's something about the Cleveland Plain Dealer that I think is a super interesting title. The name of it I always thought has been very intriguing. It kind of reminds you of the independence of these big Midwestern newspapers, which is different from now. Toledo also has a certain office-y Scranton thing to it. There was a time when we were looking at where the other locations Dunder Mifflin has offices, and the list is very funny. It's like Yonkers and Nashua, New Hampshire. It's all these words that are just kind of fun to roll off your tongue. And the Washington Post profiled the Russian comedy scene. One unnamed comedian said, now you can joke about the family, the subway, and I don't know what else, but no hint of politics. People are more tense when they hear jokes about politics because there's a feeling, will I get in trouble if I react to it? I wonder what that's like. That would never happen in the United States. Another comedian said, I wouldn't want to go to jail for a joke. At the same point, you start thinking, why the hell should I go to jail for a joke? Then you start to wonder what's going on in general. Why can't I go out and say what I personally don't like, which I think is strange, stupid, and so on? Now you should think 20 times about how your joke would be perceived and whether this joke is worth the effort. Again, I'm speaking of Russia here and not another country in which you might live. So far, that's your daily comedy news with some commentary there at the end. And before we go, a happy birthday to the great dramatic actor Adam Sandler, born on this day in 1966. Adam Sandler, 59 years old. You have a good birthday, buddy. See you tomorrow.